Hello, and welcome to the Rachel Roth Show. I am so excited about my guest today. One, because she's hugely talented and she has taught me so much. But two, because she has become such a dear personal friend of mine. And so I get to pick her brain and ask her all the questions, but also guide our conversation with things that I know she's going to teach you that she has already taught me. And it has just been absolutely incredible. So let me tell you a little bit about Lori Robertson. She is a speaker, a story strategist, and teaches professional women how to speak. She coaches professional women. For 20 years, she's worked in the world of events. She spent 10 years producing Women of Faith, a 2-day event visiting 28 to 30 NBA and NHL arenas, like huge, averaging 14,000 people at its peak. And I have spoken in front of 14,000 people before, and it is absolutely terrifying. So she hired and coached speakers, produced the program, and stepped onto the stage to host the event, speaking to audiences of almost 20,000 people. So today, Lori speaks to audiences of leaders, helping them understand how compelling communication impacts influence and results while sharing strategies and tactics every leader can use to level up their impact. In her coaching work, she leads female business owners and executive level leaders to clarity and confidence in the message that they can leverage to grow businesses and personal brands. Lori's mission is to help more women confidently say yes when asked to speak, lead, and share what they've learned along the way. So I want to add to that because in her bio, it says that she leads female business owners and executive level leaders. But I do want to add that she actually coaches any level of human beings. So there are women that I know that have sort of like unassumingly, like on accident almost fell into a position where they were supposed to speak. And those would also be amazing clients for Lori. So like she can take a stay-at-home mom or an executive level leader at a Fortune 500 company, and she is going to teach you, skills to do it no matter what. So it is truly amazing. Lori, thank you so much for being here.
Rachel, I'm super excited for our conversation. I love all of our conversations,
Yes.
and most of our conversations really would be worthy of listening in on if you had the opportunity. So I'm just excited to put your inspiration and expertise along with mine and see if we can help and encourage a few people along the way.
Oh, I love it so much. So Lori and I met through Instagram, and it was so unexpected. She reached out to me about something specific, and then somehow I was like, man, this woman is really drawing me in. Like she's very compelling. Something about her posts, something about something. And so I went to her website to go check it out. And then I signed up on her email list. And then I started getting her emails. And then I was like, oh my word, she has so much value to offer and give to the world. And so we ended up, I followed her for the longest time, was reading all of her emails and learning from every single one of them. And then we somehow decided to get on a Zoom call. We scheduled a Zoom call to chat about some different like business things. And totally unexpectedly, we talked for like, I don't know, 2 hours on our first Zoom call or something. Like it was crazy. We talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And then we were like, well, we have a lot more that we need to say to each other. So then we started scheduling like maybe every other week or maybe once a month or something. We started scheduling like these ongoing Zoom calls so that and what I loved about it was that we're both like pushing and continue currently like pushing to new levels in our businesses respectively. And so we have both grown and we have both pushed each other out of our own comfort zones, and it's been really fun to watch. It's been really fun to watch. So, Lori, I'm going to stop doing the talking. I just wanted everybody to have kind of a frame of reference and understand that you're not a stranger. Like I know you and I know you really well. So, I want to talk about kind of like the very first time that we had our Zoom call, and you were telling me your background of really how you fell into public speaking sort of by accident. Like it was not on your radar, it was not something you
Mhm.
were interested in, and it sort of just fell into your lap. So, talk to me about where you started, what you were doing, and how that happened.
Yeah, it really is. It's it's one of those remarkable moments that you look back on in life and you didn't recognize it at the time, but you took one step in one direction that really changed your path. And for me, I when I was this is random, and I don't even know if we got quite this random in our conversation, but when I was in grad school, my last semester, I was getting my MBA, and in my last semester, I had the opportunity to do an internship with a publishing company. And really, it was through a professor who had a contact. And for me as a grad student, it was simply an opportunity to get my tuition paid for in exchange for doing a little work. And I didn't even care what it was. This was a great deal for me. And what it ended up doing, it really was doing some just marketing work for a public publishing project that they had. And I ended up being hired by that company for just a short amount of time to work director of marketing for this project that was a limited time. It was a specific program launch. And then what I didn't know at the time, though, was that publisher, who they were in Nashville, they owned this live event division in Dallas of these young women who were changing the world. And through doing this publishing project, I got access to this incredible organization called Women of Faith. And when that project was winding down, I was hired by Women of Faith to starting on their marketing team for just a short amount of time. And I remember walking into the American Airlines Center the first time, and Women of Faith was in the round, and there were over 18,000 women in one room up to the top row of the third tier. And they were laughing together and they were learning together and they were singing together. And the energy of that room was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I grew up in a tiny town in Oklahoma, fewer people in that town than in this arena. And it really was magical. And I thought at that moment, I want to spend the rest of my life creating experiences like this for as many people as I can. And I, for the last 20 years, to one degree or another, have really walked that path of producing events and impactful media and experiences. But about halfway through my time at Women of Faith, 4 or so years in, my boss and the most impactful leader and mentor I've ever worked with, a woman named Mary Graham, who was the president of Women of Faith, she asked me if I would consider emceeing the events. She emceed the event. She's the only person I'd ever seen do it. And it required her to go to every single event and sort of work every single event. And somehow Mary saw something in me that I certainly didn't see in myself. And I only had an awful, awkward speech class in college. That was my only public speaking experience. And it was horrible. And in hindsight, it was horrible for good reason. I had to talk about subjects I knew nothing, they were assigned. I knew nothing about it. I cared nothing about it. And I had to share about it to other people who couldn't have cared less either. So it really was like the perfect storm of a horrible situation, but nothing in it gave me reason to think I could do this. But I really wanted to try. And I wanted to help Mary. And I knew it was a great opportunity, personally and professionally, to step out of my comfort zone, to play a better role, bigger role in these events that I knew were changing lives. And so the funny story about it is that I did what made sense at the time, because not only had I sat by the stage as the producer, I booked the talent, I worked with them on their messages, I worked with the production team that created the experience, and I sat by the stage week after week and watched these speakers, and I watched Mary MC the event. And so I'd seen more Mary than she'd seen of herself. And I went back and looked at some of the footage, and I made myself a little Mary script, and I bought myself a little Mary-like suit. And the first weekend, there were 6,000 in the room in Calgary. And I walked up those steps and I got my Mary Graham on. And I survived the weekend, and everybody in the room survived the weekend. Nothing really remarkably good or bad happened. But the funny thing is we would ask the audience for feedback, and they would fill out these evaluations. We'd send them to a data entry company, and we'd get that info back the next week. And because I produced the events, I always cared, but I'm sure you can imagine I was more emotionally invested that week.
Yeah.
And as soon as those evaluations came, I'm just flipping through really for one thing to see if anybody had anything to say about the MC. And line after line, there was just nothing about the MC until truly one of the last few comments. And one kind lady said, "The Mary Graham clone creeps me out."
Oh my gosh.
Isn't, I mean, truly, how could that possibly have been phrased any more delightfully? Because it is true, and it really illustrates kind of the first rule of leadership, of public speaking. You have to be yourself. We have to find our way to it. It's not a switch you flip, but truly, when you try to show up as someone else, or I do, it doesn't feel right to you, and it doesn't look quite right to the other people. And so the best thing you can do is be yourself and get comfortable enough in communicating, in being on video, in any of those ways that we show up. Do it enough that you can show up as yourself, because that's when you really connect with people.
I mean, I'm so amazed at this example because that is literally the exact same thing that I coach people on when I coach them how to build a social media. Like,
Yes.
that is exactly it because they
Mhm.
are trying to mimic all of the other people out there that they see that are killing it, right? And doing a great
Yeah.
job that they want to
Yeah.
emulate. And
Yeah.
they're trying to copy them. And it takes away their authenticity and it takes away their
Yeah.
individuality. Like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, I love that. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Well,
Wow.
the thing that really struck me moving forward from there, I needed help. And the help I chose turned me into the Mary Graham clone, but I needed help. And the best thing we can do is have a learning spirit and a growth mindset and look at other people who are doing awesome things and think, what are they doing and how does that look and what works? But then think, what's the Lori version of that? What's the Rachel version of that? How can I incorporate humor in an engaging way like that, but in a way that's true for me and true of me, and not just like me putting on the Mary suit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So what did you do next? Like what after you read that review and you're
Mhm.
like, well, okay, I, need to make some adjustments. Like what
Mhm.
did you do from there to kind of become more Lori and less Mary?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I want to take a quick
Yes.
detour, because one of the things that was absolutely missing about that public speaking class, that to me as a speaker coach and as a speaker, the meat of the message is your content. The magic of the message is your story, and
Okay,
the stories you
wait.
incorporate.
We need to repeat this because I'm writing this down. Say it again.
Well,
Say
when
it
I'm
again.
if I were working with you to put a message together, we are thinking about your goal, your key takeaway, those main points. That's the meat of your message. But it's the stories that add the magic to your message. And when I was in that speech class, they weren't telling me to tell stories. And honestly, I'm sure that would not have gotten me extra points on my very mediocre grade. That wasn't the way. That isn't the way necessarily of traditional lecture type speaking, but it's the language of influence. It speaks to how our brains are wired. And I back at the Women of Faith days, I didn't just have the opportunity to work alongside these incredible storytellers and teachers and encouragers, but Mary, my most impactful mentor and influence, was a phenomenal storyteller. Whether she was in a group setting or in individual conversation, she had a great story for everything. And my favorite thing about the Mary Graham clone experience is not just the lesson I learned, but it's Mary's reaction to me. Because, Mary didn't have to necessarily say much to me. I got the message. And she could have approached it any number of ways, but she did what she so often did. And she told me a story. And Mary had worked 35 years for a college ministry called Campus Crusade. And in her early days, she was involved in a team that went to college campuses and produced events. And she remembered decades later, one comment on the evaluation from her very first event, and someone wrote, "I loved everything but the girl in the gray dress." And Mary said, "Would you like to guess what I was wearing?" And then she said to me, "It will get better, and I hope you'll stick with it."
Oh,
And it did, and I did. But we all know how it feels to be the girl in the gray dress sometimes. Sometimes you're going to just nail it and be in that energy of the sweet spot. And some days you're going to do your best and it just doesn't land quite right. But the big difference maker is, are you willing to try? Are you willing to step up, to speak up, to say, "I'll lead, I'll share my story," and give it a go, versus thinking, "That's way too scary, way too risky. I'm just going to stay quiet." And honestly, you and I both know way too many accomplished, talented, sharp, incredible women who, when they're asked to give a keynote or speak on the panel or be interviewed, they say, "No, thank you," because we think, "Well, I'm not an expert. There's got to be somebody better. I might mess it up." But the fact is, more women need to have the courage and have the confidence to take a risk, to give it a go and speak up. Because then when we see that, it gives you and me more courage. That's part of the beauty of what we do every time you and I visit. I encourage you and give you a little shove. You encourage me and give me a little shove. And that's how women do incredible things.
that's so true. So, how did you really? I mean, you kind of fell into. I really love that you work with only women. Not because I'm a man hater. I have
No,
a husband
nor am I.
and two sons. Like I
Yeah.
love men. I love boys, but I also have a deep passion for helping women realize their potential and helping women because I think that so many women have this just incredibleness inside of them and they don't realize it. Or if they don't they might realize it, they might feel it, but they don't act on it. And so I
Yes.
swear my goal
Right.
in life is to inspire people to act on your inner greatness,
Yes.
and your
Absolutely.
authenticity. So it just kind of happened, it sounds like, that you started working with solely women because women of faith, I mean, it really just kind of led you down this path.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the reason I focus professionally on, now when I speak to leadership groups, sometimes they are mixed groups.
Mhm.
When I my coaching is solely focused on women, and the communication principles are not different really, but the challenges, the needs, the opportunities often are. And my experience, this is not based on scientific evidence, it's based on my experience. My experience is that women are more likely to undervalue what you have to offer and overestimate the risk in sharing it. And here's a quick illustration, something that has kind of stuck with me. I was talking to a friend who she's an executive coach, and she coaches executive level leaders and people working to level up to the top tier in their company. And she works with men and women. And somehow we were talking about imposter syndrome not that long ago. And she told me one of her male clients said to her that he is grateful for imposter syndrome because it helps manage his arrogance. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I am saying I have never in my life heard a woman say that.
Never. Never.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I also, if we do go to kind of the statistics and the data, we know that men and women enter the workforce at roughly the same rate, but every level of leadership you examine, the percentage of women is less and less. Where in the Women in the Workplace study from last year, 2022, which was is the most recent, up to the C-suite, women make up 26% of C-suite leaders. But here's the cool thing. In the top 3 levels, C-suite, senior VPs, each of those percentages have gone up roughly 10% in the last 10 years. So the great news is we are making progress. There is opportunity. There are more companies recognizing that they're more productive. They get better results when they have a variety of voices and perspectives and backgrounds at the leadership tables. But it also requires us as women to be willing to say yes and to raise our hand and say, I will do that. I will take that. I will lead that. I will share that. I will teach that. Yeah. So it comes from both sides. There are external factors that we can influence but not control, but there are also internal factors that we can build on, and we can shift perspectives, and we can give each other confidence to step up more, because there is opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. And we don't have to get into like the philosophical reasons, because I think that it's varied, but I do think that women, because I am currently living it, just the balancing act. I do sometimes think that men outnumber women, because women are doing a lot of the home stuff, and that, it's like that C-level, executive level job requires so much. And if you are raising a family like me and my 2 small boys, it's like, I don't know, you got to make a decision. So I do think that that might play a part, but the for people who want it, it is absolutely like being willing to step up and step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, I have some questions. When you start coaching, and I want you to think about, maybe give me answers from like 2 different perspectives. So let's say if you're coaching a woman who is going to be presenting to her community, like a school board, or
Yeah.
other moms, or even like other women at church. Like my twin sister has started speaking on stage at church functions,
Yeah.
and she is now addressing, and speaking at these things, and she has no training, and it took a lot for her to agree to do this. And so, okay, what's the number one thing that you hear holding women back there? And then also I want to hear, what about like a woman in a corporate environment, that was me, addressing a mixed group, but men who you need to like be, they're confident and they're, quote unquote arrogant, like, right, like they're whatever. And so you need to show up as confident, and these are very different situations, but there's got to be some commonalities there with what holds people back. So talk to me about what you hear the most feedback about. What are the fears and trepidations there?
I can tell you with great confidence, because I walked that road. And when I was starting that MC journey that took me from nothing to 6,000 people in the first weekend, 16,000 people in St. Louis the second weekend, and PS, I fell. Like I tripped on the stage and I fell and survived it. But anyway, here's what I learned from that experience and what I've used to help other people. There are the things that hold us back, and there are the things that propel us forward. The things that hold us back, 2 big buckets: fear and self-doubt. So kind of this is how I attacked it for myself. First was the physical fear. Like first of all, recognizing that 74% of adults say we fear public speaking. 74%, slightly higher women, slightly fewer men, but almost everybody says they have a fear of public speaking. We've all heard the crazy stats that say people fear public speaking more than dying and all that,
Right.
which doesn't sound like that could be 100% legit, but we know, like, we all fear it. And here's why we do. It's biologically wired in us. Just like we are wired to respond to stories in certain ways, we are wired that our body sounds the alarm when we do something risky. And maybe it is that you realize that you are too close to the edge of the Grand Canyon when you're taking a look, and your body tells you, wake up and step back. It also does the same thing when you're going to step up in front of a bunch of people, because we all fear the same thing: rejection, judgment, that kind of thing. And here's what's funny. When you think back to our ancient ancestors, they had to live and work and function in groups, not just to thrive, but truly to survive. Because if you got kicked out, it was certain death. Like, you could not survive on your own. You needed the group around you for safety. And so so the people who were smart enough not to get rejected, they were the ones that passed on their DNA and their tendencies,
because those were the ones that survived.
Yeah, because they were the smart ones. And so our bodies, in a lot of ways, still respond in that way. So you and I think about stepping up to speak at the church, to speak in front of the event, and your body is signaling to you that this is not smart. Like, this is a risky situation. And for me, it was like breathing too fast, and I had a major sweating problem. And the funny thing is, my feet sweat so badly. This is no kidding. And this was for a long time. I would have to wear shoes I could slip off so I could dry my feet on the rug really quick before it was my turn to go up on stage. Like, my feet sweat like that. I could just fall to my death at any point because my feet were so sweaty. And so the first thing I had to do, and I felt also like I could throw up at any moment. And so the first thing I had to do was learn what's going on physically and how to fix it. And the best news on that is that it's the simplest thing ever. So simple, it sounds cliche, but it's breathing. And it is like the slow, calm, measured breathing tells that primitive part of your brain in a language it understands that it's okay, that everything is fine. And it lets the reasoning part sort of start to speak louder. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and have you ever heard of Dr. Daniel Amen?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. So he would be your kind of guy. He's like he's the psychiatrist, but he studies brains, done over 40,000 brain scans.
Yes.
Yeah. So I heard him say that scientists have found that exhaling twice as long as you inhale resets the body's parasympathetic nervous system. Like, it resets that stress response. And so he said that tactic is so powerful. If you exhale twice as long as you inhale, you can diffuse a panic attack in under 2 minutes. And so if it can do that, surely it can help you or me calm down before we do our company presentation.
That is powerful.
It is. I know.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. And it also, like, if you do any sort of measured breathing, where even if you breathe in and out the same, like 4 beats in, 4 beats out, or 4 beats in, 8 beats out, you also are forcing your brain to engage with that counting exercise and kind of bring yourself back to now.
Yeah.
Because anytime I'm like nervous and anxious and freaked out, I'm always either thinking about something in the past that that went bad and I can't do anything about now, or imagining something in the future and thinking this is not going to go great. But it's almost never that we're scared of what's happening right now.
Wow. Wow.
And so those exercises that get you present, like another thing I do, and sometimes I still do this depending on the situation, like I can just get so excited that my legs will start to shake. I don't know if you've ever had that, and I don't know if anybody else ever does. But what's happening there, excited and anxious, two sides of the same coin, and it looks almost the same symptom wise.
Mm.
And so my legs would start shaking because your body's preparing you to like fight or run away. And so it's flooding all this adrenaline to your extremities. And either, like, for some people, their hands shake. For some reason, my legs shake. And what you can do is like, and nobody can see that you're doing this, but you can tighten like your thigh muscles and your butt muscles, like hard as you can for a second and let it out, and hard as you can for a second and let it out. Does two things. It floods that adrenaline back out, gets your blood back to the middle of you where you need it, but it also gives you something to focus on, like in
Yes.
yourself versus all these things that I'm worried about.
Oh my goodness.
I
I mean,
know, kind of a
where were
powerful little funny
you
thing.
before I went on stage in front of, I can't remember, 15 or 16,000 people? I can't remember. It was a lot. It was a
I'd
lot.
be
And
like,
I was like, oh my gosh, I needed these tips
yeah. Well,
because
I'd have been like,
all the
Rachel,
things,
flex your
yeah,
butt.
I know. I know. Which I've also heard works if you're gonna cry, just squeeze those butt cheeks if you're gonna cry. And
Oh,
it's like,
okay.
yes,
That's, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But it's because you're focusing on something else, you know.
yes,
So
changing, yeah,
yeah.
changing your focus. And
Yeah.
the other piece that's huge for women, especially, a lot of the women I work with are business professionals. Like, they've achieved a certain amount of success. And if they were just terrified, like literally can't speak in front of other people, they wouldn't be where they are. So we all appreciate those tactics that just help us settle down.
Mm.
But it's the mindset then that gets you, the part that says, who am I to do this? There's got to be somebody better. I might screw this up. And the one shift, there are a few different reframes that I've used myself and for clients that help, but probably the biggest one is that your story is your authority. So you are not saying, I am the worldwide expert in this, that, or whatever. You are sharing what you are the undisputed expert in.
Mm.
Your story is your authority. And when you speak out of your own story, what you've learned and earned along the way, and you tell me what you learned that's going to help me for the struggle I'm in, not only can no one argue with that, but also you differentiate yourself not by what you do, but by who you are. Just like you were talking about when you coach people on social media and you try to help them not mimic what others are doing, but do what makes them them. Because I'm one of a million people that could help you with public speaking, with communication, with storytelling. But I'm the only one who's me with my perspective, my values, my vibe, my experience. And that is what is going to resonate with the people I'm meant to work with. And someone else's vibe and experience and approach is going to resonate with the people who are supposed to work with them.
Golly. I just wrote down so many notes because that is really profound. I mean, I have found myself so many times over the years saying that exact thing. Like, who who am I? Like,
Mhm,
there's people that are
mhm.
so much more accomplished than me, Lori. Like, there's
Sure.
people that are so
Yeah.
much, that have done so much more than me. And so I am constantly fighting the urge to be quiet and sit
Huh?
back and hide in the
Yep.
shadows because it's not that I don't feel worthy, it's that I don't feel qualified sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I
Sure.
think that
Yep.
that's such a really beautiful way to say it, is your story is your authority, because that gives me and I'm a confident person. Like, you know me. You know I'm a
Mhm.
confident person. It's just like
Yeah.
I just hesitate to teach people things because I'm like, oh, girl, I don't know. Maybe you could learn it better from so and so. I don't know if I. And so that's where,
Right.
but nobody has my story.
Right.
And
Nobody
that
has
is
your story.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And we want to connect with other people. I mean, there's nothing you can't Google. It's not that you need more information. You need to connect with someone who can help you take the information, organize it in a way that speaks to the challenge or the problem or the need, and apply it in a way that helps you move toward your goals.
Mm.
That's what we need. It's not that you can't Google anything. I know you can find on Google, and I learned most of what I know by Google and Mary Graham. Those are my two sources. But it's not that you or I could teach almost anyone most much that they couldn't learn in other places.
Mm.
But you're the only one who can teach it in the way only you can teach it from your experience and your perspective. And I'm the only one who can teach any of these things from my perspective, filtered through my own insights and experience and delivered in my personality. Like that's it. That's all you or I have to offer the world is ourselves. But the great thing is that's also our superpower.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I mean, just really profound. You have breathed life into me. That's amazing. So, okay, I want to give you a very specific scenario and I want your input because I have been in this situation before. I have been in the situation where it is time for me to get up on stage,
Mhm.
and there are a couple of people in the audience that I know are not fans of
Mhm.
mine and are probably, I don't think they're bad people, but they just are, I know that they're going to love picking apart everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um so as the person getting up on stage, you're not thinking about the 10,000 people or the 10
I
people,
know.
right? Like I think even sometimes it could be more intimidating to get up in front of a room of 12 than in
Yes,
front of a
I
room of
agree.
12,000, right?
I agree. Yep.
Okay, so let's say whether it's a group of 12 or whether it's a group of 12,000 or 1,200, whatever number you want to put it on, but it's like, what do you say to me or the me's out there that are like, okay, I'm gonna get up on stage and I know that so and so and so and so are in the audience,
Mhm.
and I that is what is actually intimidating me more than anything else.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do I do to overcome that?
Yes. That's a great question. And anyone who's ever stood in front of an audience has probably felt that to one degree or another. Either you know some of those dynamics, or you get up and you see the people in front of you, and you can see some that are absolutely engaged and smiling and eager. And then there are some that are looking at their phone or looking at you like you're the biggest moron they've come across. I mean, just for whatever reason.
Yes.
But here are a couple of things that, I mean, it's perspective is everything. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Wayne Dyer. And one important perspective, I think, especially for women, is to make peace with the fact that you are not for everyone.
Mm,
And that's hard. That
mhm,
is hard. But just like that, there are people who are going to resonate with your story, your values, your vibe, your way. There are people who will do the same with me. There are people who won't.
mhm.
And you and I don't have time to help everyone in the world anyway. So our goal is to help the people who we are here to help. So, first thing, you're not for everyone. Each time I get up to speak, before I speak, I always say a little prayer that God will help my message hit the right place with the people that it's for, and that everyone in the room will feel loved on and encouraged regardless.
I have seen
And it's
that's
it's
amazing.
a it's a little like bringing a gift to a party. Like you bring the gift, but you can't control how it's received. And we're having a party and you bring a cherry pie and I bring a salad. And some people are going to like my salad, some people are not going to like my salad. Some people are going to like cherry pie, some people are not. And that's not your worry. You brought what you had to bring to the party, and you offer it up. But it's also it's also a matter of deciding and owning that when you walk onto the stage, you are the leader. You're the leader of the room. You set the tone and you set the temperature. And whatever is going on with everyone in the room, and there's something going on with everyone in the room that we can't see, good, bad, and indifferent. But your job is to lead. Your job is to share the transformative message you have been asked to give to help as many people in the room as it's helpful to and will receive it. And so to some degree, you just also have to kind of put your big girl pants on and say, I don't have time to worry about, Jerky McJerkerson and whatever is up with them. It's more about them than about me.
Sure.
Like when somebody's, rude at the grocery store, it's not because they have something against you. Like, they got bad news or they're just a mean person, but it's not about you. And so sort of keeping yourself focused on your main thing and managing, what you're telling yourself. And you're either going to tell yourself that what they think matters, or you have to tell yourself that is not your concern. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not easy. And I know that feeling. I spoke at a conference a year or two ago, and it's really nice when a room is right sized, and it's really hard when a room is not. And in this instance, for the size of people at the conference, the number of people at the conference, it was a really huge room. And of course, you would love for everybody to just tuck in up front and but no one does that. You've got a few of your front row people, you got a lot of your middle people, and you've got a few of your back row people. And lighting, helps control crowds at events. And so you turn the lights down and people sort of settle down and pay attention. When the lights are up, it seems like you can just do whatever you want. So I'm trying to lead this session, and there were people all over the room doing any number of things, from engaged taking notes to taking a call and walking out. And like, I did not love that, but I couldn't focus on that because I'm here to help the people who want to learn about this topic and are paying attention. There's a lot I would love to have changed about the scenario, but when you're invited to somebody else's party, you can't control all of that, but you control you, and you control your message, and you do the best you can to get the best message you can to the people it's for, and do the best you can to not worry about everybody else.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Like, that's amazing. And I do fake it, I think, pretty good in the situations that I have been in. I think that I was able to, even though that was bothering me, like, I don't know that I don't know if it came through. I don't know. I feel like I
Probably not.
was able to push, I don't know. I don't
Mhm,
know.
mhm. Yeah.
I'll ask my husband. But yeah, that's really, really, really good advice. Really good. Why do you do what you do? Why do
I,
you coach?
because I want more women to say yes. I want more women who are sharp, experienced, awesome, and excellent, the kind of women you and I both love spending time with. Those are the women that are too prone to say no, thank you. And I want more of them to say yes. And I want more of them to raise their hand to share what they've learned along the way, to share the message that's going to grow their personal brand and raise their visibility and grow their business. Or there's always women like you and me, there's always a missional element to it as well. It is, if nothing more specific, it is that you and I have achieved what we've achieved because we had the opportunity to learn from and be mentored by and championed by other people. And so we feel a burden to share with the people coming along behind us so that we can help some of them. And as women, we rise together. The more women who make it to top positions of visibility, that just tells other women what's possible. And so it has just been sort of a calling for that I've been deeply invested in for the last 4 years or so, to help more women recognize the value of their message and get the clarity and confidence around it to step up and share, step up and lead.
Yes. I could not agree more. I feel like that, yeah, I feel like those words could have come out of my heart and my
Mm,
mouth as well, because
yes.
yeah, I nothing breaks my heart more than seeing a woman not realizing and utilizing her potential and wanting to, but
Yes. Yeah.
holding
Yeah.
herself down because of fear and
Mhm.
self-doubt. And so, yeah, I love it. So, okay, two things. One, I want to know if you had three three little nuggets of advice. Like,
Huh?
here are three things that you should do if you want to rip off the band-aid and do that speaking thing you've been afraid of.
Mhm.
What are three things that people
The
should take away?
the first thing is you can absolutely start small. And small might look like raising your hand to share your story or a message at your church or at the community event. Small might look like speaking up in the meeting. Whatever your goal is or your vision is, there are 100 or 1,000 small steps between here and there. And each one, one of the life principles I've learned is that clarity comes from action. And I'm a woman who would love to have the full plan laid out, full color, laminated, concrete, And I have noticed, I've lived long enough to notice that life does not work that way. But I have also learned that very little becomes clear by just thinking about it. And I can tell you that for sure because I've tried it a lot. But what I do know is that every step you take, even the tiniest, you can see differently from that step than you could see the step before. Even if you visualize like a literal path or a literal staircase, you take a step forward and truly you can see something from there that you could not see from the past. And so clarity comes from action, and even action that's not perfect. Who's perfect on the first try? And perfect's not the goal. Connection and impact is the goal. And so taking that first step to speak up more, even if it is in a meeting, you take what someone else said, agree to it, and expand on it. Or you say, I will read the announcements this week. Or that your church does a women's devotion every month. And they always need someone to come and just share their story with the same group of, 25 or 30 or 50 women. And you say, you know what? I'll take February. Nobody wants February. I would love to tell you a little bit about my journey. And the thing is, like, something you've learned and something I've learned is the very thing somebody else is praying for an answer for right now. And so just whatever feels like the doable next step that just takes you in the right direction, that's your next thing. That's your next challenge: to speak up in the team meeting next week, to volunteer to lead the presentation to the new client, to raise your hand to share your story, or to speak at the community chamber event. Whatever feels like a stretch but doable, that's your next step.
I love that. Love that. Okay, so start small.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity comes from action.
Mm-hmm.
Very little becomes clear just by thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the other thing. A counselor told me this years ago, and it was fairly life changing. And I've thought of it only 800 million times since then. And we say no or we hesitate because it feels safer, because it feels like too big a risk. I saw a Pew Research study not that long ago that said in like business leadership, men are 7 times more likely to be willing to take risks than women. Like women, we really, if we're not sure we can get it right, we kind of don't want to do it. But that's also what holds us back. And so, what the counselor told me years ago, and this was super obvious, but I don't think I'd really thought about it, is that feelings don't have brains.
Ooh.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I'm writing this
I
down
know,
really
I know.
fast.
I should get it tattooed probably, but feelings don't have brains, but knowledge really is power, and knowledge brings confidence. And so whatever it is you're struggling with, whether it's communication, whether it's public speaking, whether it's conflict resolution, whether you want to train for a marathon or whatever it is, there's someone out there who's done it, that you can read a book, you can watch a video, you can Google it. And those things we worry about, we just build them into these monstrous, impossible obstacles in our minds. But yet, again, kind of in the small steps way, like take a step to educate yourself. Like, what can you learn that would help you along the way? Could you take a class? Could you join Toastmasters? Could you have a conversation with someone who's farther along on the journey you want to be on? And what knowledge could you get that would help fuel your confidence?
Yeah, I love that. Golly, that's really good.
That's
That's
powerful,
actually
isn't it?
so valuable. I'm so glad you said Toastmasters because I've actually been meaning to look into that in my area. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Once again, just a little nudge, Lori. Thank you. So if people want to find you, they
Yep.
want to get on your email list like I did, where I started before I even knew you personally. I was like gaining so much knowledge. How do people find you? And I list it and then I will also put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So my website is speakhercoach.com, speak HER coach.com. And I'll give you a specific link that takes your audience right to a place to sign up to get this 5 steps guide I created. It's called Speak with Confidence. And it's a 5-step quick start guide for professional women. And here's what's interesting about it. Here's the spirit behind it. It is the 5 most impactful things that helped me go from no speaking to having more confidence and having a better time with it. We all want clarity and confidence. So it's the how to manage the physical, how to adjust your mindset and address the doubt, and how to lean in and cultivate confidence. So if you sign up, you'll get a little guide, and then you'll get an email from me each day with a little video helping you understand that day's step and apply it quicker. So that's my website. And then on social, I'm most active on LinkedIn. And so you can find me on LinkedIn, and that's where I'm spending most of my social time. Not all of it, but most of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for all of this goodness. I took so many notes, and it's like all of these. I'm sitting here reading it. Like I got so much out of our conversation today. And I've talked to you 1 billion times before. Like I just got so much out of this. So thank you so much for pouring into us. And I am so proud of you and I'm so excited for you and what you're doing and who you are reaching. And I love watching you grow and
Well,
further your mission. I love it.
it is right back at you. And you and I have such a connection because we really could have been separated at birth when it
I know.
comes to how we feel about helping and encouraging and challenging and equipping other women to live their best life, to show up and create the world they want and have the impact they're here to have. And so we're really kindred spirits in that. And I just appreciate the time for the conversation and the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Well, I love it. And thank you so much. And I'll talk to you again very soon.
Love it. Love it. Anytime.